Texas beating OU is one of our favorite things. Losing in March Madness stings, and LeBron is not winning another Mickey Mouse ring. All this and more on College Crossfire. What are those?
He's coming back for that 2021 MVP. He's better than Josh Allen. He's better than Baker Mayfield. He's not better than Mahomes. I can't say that.
Well, Justin Tucker gives him his 99 rating in Madden.
Ceiling is the roof. There is no roof, so they have a pretty high ceiling.
SAT or the ACT. let's really see how.
That's enough talk. Let's talk. Welcome to College Crossfire. I am your host, Drew Jacob, and I'm putting the whole roster on new suit jacket alert. But first of all, let's make the rounds. On first base, we've got Jaxon. Jaxon, how are we feeling today?
Pretty good. Texas won the OU series. So after that embarrassing A&M loss, can't be too bad.
Absolutely. Spirits are always high when we can beat OU in anything. Adam, we're on to you next.
Doing good. Just trying to figure out what we're going to do with the next 4 months without college football and college basketball now.
Absolutely. I thought of this a lot after making the script for this week's episode. But before we get into that, Evan, you're on third base tonight.
I am. It's been a long time. Also got a new look. The glasses are out now, so who knows if that'll help me. But
excellent. They're looking good. Now that you can see the competition, it's got to be over for these guys. We'll see how it all plays out, but for now, that's enough talk. Let's talk. Texas baseball may not have gotten the sweep in their most recent series, but a 2-1 win over your most hated rival is nothing to complain about. From a glass-half-full perspective, I'd say that's more wins than the football team's gotten over Oklahoma since I started college in 2018. Great. The bats were on fire as usual, and the bullpen played well enough to stay out of the way. So that said, panelists, who was your standout player from the Texas versus OU series? On this one, start with Jackson.
So Texas's bullpen has been coming under fire this past month, and rightfully so. But I want to give a shout out to one pitcher that really impressed me this past Sunday. His name was Coy Cobb. Last Sunday we were down 7-1 against OU. Everybody knows the story. We come back tied at 7. Coy Cobb comes into the 8th inning after Olivares gives up the 3-run shot and then blanks him. So he comes in and pitches 2 astounding innings. No strikeouts or anything like that. He had just had 1 walk, but he did just enough to keep Texas, let them have the opportunity to take the lead and keep it. I mean, Coy Cobb, he came into the 9th, I believe, allowed 1 run on a walk and I think a double. But, I mean, other than that, if you'd allow 1 run when you're trying to win the game by, by 4 or 5, I think that's, a pretty good starting point for Coy Cobb. He has an 8 appearances this year. He has an ERA under 2, so I'm excited to see him as he continues to play this season.
Absolutely. It was a great performance. Didn't let that game get any more out of hand. And for relief pitchers, low-key, strikeouts are an overrated stat. You really want to look at ERAs and blown games. So great performance, great answer. Adam, though, we're on to you next.
You kind of mentioned the qualms about the bullpen Texas has. Pete Hansen on Friday, he said we don't need a bullpen. He went 8 innings, 12 strikeouts, only gave up 2 hits and 1 earned run. So great performance like that. Those are kind of the pitching performances that you're going to need in big games come playoff time in the early summer. And then just flipping to the batter's box. Shout out to Murphy Staley, 15-game hitting streak. Also had a big 3-run home run to tie up the series on Sunday. So that's my pitcher and batter of the series for the Red River rivalry.
Excellent picks. Games where Texas is going to need to have more games where the starting pitcher can go, if not the distance, pretty far. We were talking last week about how a big problem facing the team, and something that really exacerbated the issues with the bullpen, is that they'd come on a string of games where they had to go way too deep into it, like Texas Tech, for example. So more games like that are needed if Texas is going to make a run. But Evan, we're on to you next.
I think someone that needs a shout out after kind of struggling to start the year is Dylan Campbell. Even right now after a great weekend, he's still slugging under 350. But in this series, in the 2 games that they took a win in, he had 4 RBI and 2 separate home runs. 2 home runs in 2 games. Can't ask for more. He's still playing great defensively, but in the bottom of the order, that's all you can ask for. Championship teams are built on bottom of the order guys that can show power at really key spots, and him hitting a home run in 2 games is really big. And then also I have to shout out Silas Arduin. I mean, he's just the best defensive catcher in baseball, in college baseball, and he threw out a runner in each game, also had a home run, and he was pretty much the entire offense in the loss with 2 RBI. So, he showed up in the loss and not as much in the wins, but playing good defense is all you need from a catcher, and he's doing great defensively and offensively.
Absolutely. You said he threw out a player in all 3 games, that you said?
Yep.
Threw out a player in all 3 games. Evan, you are getting the 3 points on this one, but Jackson and Adam, you are not far behind because you guys have actually tied for the 2. Guess I'm just in a good mood after Texas beat OU. As the baseball team leaves Oklahoma in the rearview mirror, the softball team finds themselves in their crosshairs. The Longhorns have had a commendable season so far. Currently they're sitting at number 19 in the polls with a 29-10 record. Not too shabby. The only problem is that OU's 32-0. They might be one of the best teams in the history of the sport, and they are currently the unanimous number 1. This is dominance that makes UConn women's basketball blush. Suffice to say, Texas has their work cut out for them, and it's unlikely, to say the least, frankly not even really worth talking about, whether or not they'll win the series. But I'm wondering if they can do something that'll sting OU just as much. Does Texas have what it takes to steal a game and give Oklahoma their first blemish on a year that has currently been perfect? And in this one, starting with Adam.
You want to find a weakness in this OU team? Good. There's not one. I mean, this team is 32-0. Look at this. I mean, they lead the nation batting .383, and they've only given up 17 earned runs in 32 games combined. Their best batter, Jocelyn Allo, 16 homers, leads the team with 33 bases on balls, and also leads the team in batting averages, batting over 500. She doesn't have a weakness. She can hit for power, she can get on base, and she can hit well, solid contact as well. And then one of their pitchers, graduate transfer Hope Troutwine, 54 innings pitched, .13 ERA. This OU team is loaded, historically good. I think it's a tall task for Texas. I'd say the Sooners march on with 3 more wins.
The way you opened up that answer, I thought you were going to have some insight on like, here's the weakness, here's what Texas does. But then from there, it only got worse for the Longhorns. Perfect answer for a team that might, just be perfect. That said, Evan, we're on to you next.
I mean, Adam hit a lot of the key points, but I mean, I'll just go and say that this might be one of the best college softball teams you'll ever see. I mean, they've won 2 championships the last 5 years. 2017 was a historic team. Last year's team for Oklahoma only lost 4 games, and this team is better than them. I mean, it's just, you mentioned Allo, former player of the year last year, best player in college softball, Grace Lyons, right behind her, probably also the second best player in college softball, hitting over 500. Both of them are slugging around 1,000, I think. I just can't see this Texas team that's built a lot in small ball and kind of using speed around the bases and young players defeating such a tall task of a team like Oklahoma. I mean, the pitching for Oklahoma, best in the country. As you said, the hitting also best in the country. I just don't see a way that they take a game off this team.
Not too optimistic with our first 2 answers. Jackson, let's see if you can brighten things up a little bit.
So I don't think Texas is going to win all 3 games, but I will shed a little bit of optimism. If Oklahoma is to lose, Texas's hitting has to be outstanding. And for the most part, they've been pretty darn good this season. While Oklahoma's pitchers, yes, Adam said, 17 earned runs in 32 games, only 27 runs in 32. So if you're giving up 33% of your runs that are unearned, that would be a huge knock to any team. But when all 3 of us have more fingers than OU has given up runs, it's going to be tough. If it's going to happen, Texas is going to have to keep playing small ball. They have more hits than anybody in the Big 12, surprisingly, and trail OU. In the Big 12, they only trail OU in RBI and in runs total. So I don't think it's impossible for them to do it. Texas pitching's been a little bit iffy this season, so they're going to have to pitch the best performances of their careers. But I think Texas could do it just because we hate them that much and they hate us that much. So I think it'll still be an entertaining series one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, that really, rivalry game, I guess that's really the best point in Texas's favor. I mean, I don't know, we've seen Auburn beat Bama in some years where it really shouldn't have happened. Of course, this makes Bama look like Auburn, so I don't really know what to say. But Adam, you were getting the 3 on this one. Let's see, Jackson, you were getting the 2, and Evan, the 1. That has got to be, in one question, more praise than OU has ever gotten in the entire history.
It'll never happen.
Oh, yeah, they deserve it.
Yeah, don't get too used to it, Okies. Shifting gears to basketball now, congrats to the Kansas Jayhawks for defeating North Carolina and winning their 4th national championship in school history. I'm starting to understand why SEC football fans are the way they are. But one winner leaves 67 losers left in the dust. So let's shift to a glass-half-empty mindset, and panelists, let us know which team, player, or coach had the most embarrassing, disappointing performance in March. This one, we're starting with Evan.
Well, I think if we're talking about embarrassing, it's got to be Walker Kessler from Auburn. He probably had the most sad tournament ever for a player. He saw his team that he transferred from last year beat Duke and beat Duke, their bitter rivals, and go to the finals just to lose to Kansas. While his team, number 2 seed in the country, one of the best teams throughout the whole year, kind of tailed off the end, Auburn, losing the second round, and he put up 2 points in their loss. And Kessler's probably, I think he won the Defensive Player of the Year for the nation. He's one of my favorite players this year to watch just because of how great he is defensively and offensively. But if you're going to be a top 15 pick, which he was assumed to be before this tournament, you just cannot put up 2 points in a second round game. He had a pretty embarrassing performance, and he had a pretty embarrassing just having to watch the rest of the conference and the rest of the championship play because the SEC did bad, and then he saw the team he transferred away from do amazing. So sorry, Walker, but that was pretty bad from you.
That's a great answer. Having to watch Auburn do much better, the team he transferred do much better, that is something you're not going to see on a stat sheet, but that's something that he has definitely thought very much about. Doing that while harming your draft stock, terrible performance. That said, though, Jackson, we are on to you next.
Going back-to-back with the championship is going to be difficult no matter what sport you're playing, I guess, unless you're Oklahoma likely
I wonder
this
where
year.
this is going.
The Baylor Bears, I think, for me, were the most disappointing team this March. I thought they were arguably the best team in the country. They were just so deep on the top to bottom on the roster. They never really had that one player that just like crazy wowed us. But you know, you looked around that team and you really didn't see much of a weakness until, I can't believe it's saying his name again, Jonathan Chachoa. Chama Chachoa. I can't say that name. It's so difficult. Till he went down against Texas, then the cracks really started to show, and UNC really took advantage of that in the second round. I thought Baylor's destined for so much, but Brady Manick really put me in my place and said, you're not going to really have a good bracket this year. And even after coming back from 25, they really couldn't complete it. So Baylor had a really good season overall. Scott Drew's one of the best coaches in college basketball. They'll be back again next year, but I thought this year would have stung a lot if you're a Bears fan.
How far did you have Baylor going in your bracket?
I had him winning the title.
I had Auburn
Second
winning the
most
title.
embarrassing performance in March Madness this year. So, well, I guess we're tied because I had them doing the same thing. Obviously, Auburn's pretty good, so it was fine. But it could have been worse, right? That said, Adam, we're on to you next.
I won't mention who I had winning my bracket. I did have North Carolina beating Baylor, though, in the round of 32. So that's about the one thing I got right.
Wow.
But I'm going to go keep harping on the SEC like Evan over here. How about Tennessee, man? They won 15 of their last 17 games, run through the SEC tournament. They beat Kentucky twice in that span. And then they go out to a very average Michigan team that had 14 losses. They should have been in the first four. They should have been in the first four.
Come on.
Very average Michigan team. I mean, Santiago Vescovi, their second leading scorer, he had just 5 points in that game. I mean, for a coach like with the pedigree of Rick Barnes, I mean, they were given a tough draw in the South region with Arizona and Villanova and a Houston team that was honestly underseeded. But to go out to an 11th seed Michigan, lose by 8 points, very disappointing from Rick Barnes for a Tennessee team that was coming in hot into the tournament.
You know what they used to call Rick Barnes back when he was in Texas? It was Rick Round of 32 Barnes. I couldn't believe it. Folks, he lives up to his name no matter which UT he's at. That said, Adam, great answers all around to everybody. But Adam, you were getting the 3 on this one. Evan, you'll be getting the 2. And Jackson, the 1. Let's see, we've got to cut to commercial break. But when we come back, it's going to be all NBA. You won't want to miss it. Welcome back to College Crossfire, but before we get started, let's take a look at the scoreboard. Leading the show, we've got Adam with 8 points. Coming in second, we've got Evan with 6. And bringing up the rear in third, we have got Jackson with 5. Obviously a very close game, so let's just jump right back into it. The results are in. The Los Angeles Lakers will not be making the NBA playoffs after last night's decisive loss to America's new favorite team, the Phoenix Suns. It's been an up and down year for the Lakers in the sense that they have constantly been put up in primetime slots only to get beat down by most of their competition. So now the fork has officially been stuck in Los Angeles' worst basketball team's hopes and dreams to the playoff. Let us know what went wrong for the Lakers this season. And on this one, we are starting with Jackson.
So the Lakers, if you're comparing it to a sandcastle, the Lakers had one of the greatest sandcastles you could ever have on the beach. And also, the Lakers were also the waves that took over and completely wiped out that beautiful sandcastle. The Lakers 2 years ago were set for another few years of dominance. But they let go 6 of their top 10 scorers over the past year. They allowed LeBron to shoulder most of the burden. He's 37 years old. Bill Belichick would have never let Tom Brady do the same thing. And the rest of the Rodgers injuries, sure, but the rest of the roster was just not built for a playoff run. When Anthony Davis, he's such a good player, but he's not. He just can't carry all that brunt when LeBron cannot play. So I think nobody dismantles a team better than the Los Angeles Lakers like they do every single time they are poised to compete. But I think you gotta leave the team alone, man.
Really embarrassing about missing essentially a 20-team playoff after you win the even 2 years removed. This is just unbelievable. Jackson, great job tearing them apart. Adam, let's see what you.
You're gonna get me going on something else. The playoff is like a participation trophy. I think the Spurs are like 10 games below 500, and they're in the playoff spot, playing spot. So, but yeah, the Lakers. I mean, I think you do have to say injuries because Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, LeBron James. They only played 21 of the 82 games together, and then the Lakers had 39 different starting lineups this year. That's more wins than they had. So they were rotating through guys. But it also starts in the beginning, trading for Russell Westbrook and having to give up a whole package of guys, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, Kyle Kuzma, having to get those guys up, key role players that would have really surrounded LeBron and Anthony Davis well. I mean, I think this Laker team was set up to fail at the beginning of the year, and then injuries finished them off. And yeah, the 10-team playoff or 20-team playoff is a participation trophy. So that's my extra bonus answer.
Appreciate it. And ooh, that stat about starting lineups versus wins is just brutal. And for the folks at home, you may not know this is a little behind-the-scenes action. Before the show started, Evan has just been chomping at the bit waiting for this. So Evan, take it away.
Oh man, I just have to say it. I really don't understand why they were so hyped. I said I was too scared to say that they might not be that good because everyone thought they would be the best team of all time. Not all time, you know what I'm trying to say here. But that is not how you build a championship roster. The Lakers are trying to win the championship, and that is not in any way the way that you build a championship team. Look at the two teams that were in the finals last year. Suns, Bucks. You have Giannis, who's very similar to LeBron, one of the best players in the league, big forward who can carry the team, carry the load at the end. And what do they do around him? They get two fringe all-star players in Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, and they build him with shooting and defense. Look at the two guys that LeBron got. Russell Westbrook can't shoot, can't play defense. He can't do either of them. He's just LeBron but small. Anthony Davis, look at what he does. He can't shoot either. He's just a big guy who should play center for a team like this. Can't play center. He's not strong enough. He's not big enough to play it, even though he's 6'11". And then you look at the Suns. Ayton and Chris Paul. Chris Paul, the best point guard you could ask for, surrounded around a guy like Devin Booker, can play good defense, can pass, can shoot. Ayton, not even a great shooter, but knows how to facilitate as a center there. And then you look at farther down on the teams. The Suns, more than any team maybe ever, have some of the best role players you can ask for. Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cam Payne. Defense and shooting, that is what wins NBA championships. Defense and shooting. Suns and Bucks, top 10 in both. Bucks have kind of gone down on defense this year because of injuries, but in general, when they're in the playoffs, they're a good defensive team. The Lakers have no one aside from Malik Monk, who is a good shooter, just in general. Not aside from LeBron, not aside from any of their stars. Malik Monk is their only shooter in the starting five. Compared to the Suns, the Bucks, they have 3 shooters, 5 good defenders. You just can't build a team like this, Rob Pelinka. You can't build a team where you have 3 guys who all want to be ball-dominant players who can't shoot, and then have no bench depth. Austin Reeves being your best bench player, that's awful. I guess you can say Carmelo's their best bench player, but he's old. He's not that great. He can kind of shoot, can't play defense to save his life. I mean, the Lakers just were so poorly built from the start. It's so saddening to see such a great player like LeBron at 37, averaging 30 points, and having a team like that around him with no help. I want to call him LeMickey because it's funny, but he did all he could this year. But the team failed him. I mean, they just traded away good players, got rid of anyone who could shoot threes or play defense, and surrounded him with players that don't gel with him. It's just unfortunate.
Heck of a monologue.
Yeah, sorry, that guy. I just dislike that team.
You got 2 more years there, too.
I mean, tell us how you really feel.
I know, I was mad. I'm not going to lie.
No, absolutely. And for your efforts, I mean, I feel like you've absolutely earned the 3 on this one. Adam, great answers as well. You'll be getting the 2, and Jackson, the 1. That was a little cathartic for everybody. That was a good time. We should do that more often. We've got a little ways left until the NBA playoffs tip off, but the regular season is certainly winding down. With just a few games left for each team, we have a pretty good idea who will be the higher and lower seeds in the first-round matchups. See, often the playoffs in this league are heavy on the chalk, but many are predicting that won't quite be the case this year. So, panelists, what playoff contender do you think is most likely to pull an upset in round 1? And this includes teams that will be involved in the play-ins. Or the real round one, though. Adam, start us off.
Man, I'm looking now at the Western Conference. I'm looking at the Denver Nuggets. They're currently slotted in as the 6th seed, but this is a team that could have 2 players coming back healthy. Jamal Murray coming back from that ACL injury. It looks like he has a pretty decent chance to at least play some minutes. And then Michael Porter Jr. trying to heal up from the back injury. He was expected to come back. He's had a little bit of a minor setback. He's more of a 50-50, so the Nuggets will be hoping they can at least get one of the 2 back, but they've done well without them. Nikola Jokic is just a fantastic player, 27 points per game. Aaron Gordon has played well, 15 points per game for him, and you look at some of the bench contributions. Bryn Forbes, he's shooting 40% from the 3-point line off the bench. Bones Highland averaging nearly 10 points per game, talented rookie out of ECU, and then you got the experience and all the other wonderfulness that comes with DeMarcus Cousins, too, in that locker room. But, hey, at least you got the experience. So this is an intriguing Nuggets team. I think if they can get, either Murray or Porter Jr. or both back for playoffs, they could give someone a scare. They're slotted to play the Warriors right now, and they've got their own injury question marks with Steph Curry still trying to get back healthy.
Excellent choice. You know, it's I've noticed sort of the popular pick, but sometimes things are popular for a reason. Very plausible. I think I might be predicting that one myself. But Evan, we are on to you next.
So I have to say sorry for last round for having a bit of a David answer. So I'll go a little bit quickly. I think the Clippers can win their first what do they call it, play-in game and win against the Timberwolves. I don't think that should be too hard for them with Paul George back. I think they could also beat the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies team is very fun, very young, very popular team right now. Probably one of the favorite teams of everyone in the NBA. But they also have a lot of weaknesses. They are very low on depth. They don't really have a real center, and this will be a small ball kind of series because neither do the Clippers really. But say Kawhi can even come back for 3-4 games. I think him and PG are just going to be too hard to stop. They don't really have defenders that can stop them very easily. John Morant will go off just because it's hard for the Clippers to keep up with him, but they have 4 depth rotational pieces that can all sub in and out and keep them stamina healthy and all of that to make sure Morant isn't just running around the whole team. I think the Clippers can take the series. I don't think they are favored, but it can happen.
Absolutely. Well, look, if Kawhi can play any of that series, I mean, two big things, right? Kawhi is a guy who's pretty famous, I would say, for getting better in the playoffs.
Yep.
Secondly, yeah, Memphis is a young team. Weird things happen when these things come together in the playoffs. Solid pick. But Jackson, you're going to finish this one off for us.
Surprise, surprise, I'm going to pick the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah.
If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago what the Spurs' future was, I was hoping for the #1 pick, as well as those top 3, those other 2 picks from Boston and Toronto to be as low as they possibly could have been. But I'm going to go ahead and start with Josh Richardson, who's been arguably, I think, one of my favorite players over the past 20 games or so. We got him in the Derek White trade with Boston, and he has been such a shooter that we have been missing so deeply on this offense. Jakob Poeltl's turned into one of the best defensive bigs in the game, and while the rest of the team's defense is not so good, it's at least soothing to know that he's not going to be absolutely dominated below. DeJounte Murray in this year has, he's been forced to take on that #1 role, and he's been outstanding. He's out with an illness right now, but, he should be back by the time the play-in starts. And then he has so many young players around him. We have, Devin Vassell, Josh Primo, still finding his shot, but an excellent defensive player. And we also have players off the bench such as, Keita Bates-Diop, who put up 40 against the Lakers last time we played them. And so I'm a really big fan of the Spurs going forward. I feel like they could beat the Pelicans. If they could somehow win that second play-in game, I feel like they have who's the #1 seed in the Western?
The Suns.
Ooh.
I was about to say, they're beating the Suns?
I do think the Suns have their work cut out for them.
The only trophy the Spurs are getting their participation won.
I'll take it.
He has confidence in his team. He has confidence in his team.
Hey, the Rockets are nowhere near the playoff Wizards. Yeah.
Jackson, I'm a Spurs fan too. I don't personally see it. Good reasoning though. Of course, I think that the thing you did miss on the #1 thing that I think always gives the Spurs a plausible fighting chance. It's not someone on the court. It's an old man who sits on the sideline. Greg Popovich, second best coach in the history of the league. I do think that you can't quite count the Spurs out ever until he retires.
That would have been too easy. If I just mentioned Pop, then
If you would have mentioned Pop in addition to all of your other reasons, you would have gotten the 3 on this one, but you will be getting the 2.
We got a little Spurs bias over here.
Adam, you'll be getting the 3, and Evan, the 1. No Spurs bias here. What are you talking about?
Take notes for rapid fire. Just mention the Spurs.
We've got to take another break, but when we come back, it'll be for all the marbles, because up next is the San Antonio Spurs Hour Rapid Fire. You won't want to miss it. Oh, welcome back to College Crossfire, and I hope our panel's ready to think on their toes because it's time for Rapid Fire. Which everyone we know that of course means it's anyone's game. Every week never gets old. The Wizards and Nationals recently came together for a cross-sport collab, go DC, to create a set of jerseys for both basketball and baseball, paying homage to DC area's famous cherry blossoms. Now, if you've seen these, you probably agree that the baseball fans in the city get the short end of the stick. I mean, come on, they're gray. They're so nice. That said, panelists, it's a novel idea. So what teams do you think from the same city or state do you think should come together for a collaboration of their own? Anyone can jump in.
I'll start. I'm going to go with the Miami teams. I'm just going to go Miami Dolphins, and we'll go the Miami Heat. Those Vice City jerseys, I don't care what you say, they're the best jerseys in the, I think, of any sport. If you got some Dolphins colors on there too, a little bit of splash of orange, a little splash of the whatever green they have, I feel like on a football uniform, I feel like that would sell numbers. Can you imagine how many college kids would eat that jersey up? Look how popular they are now.
It would be a certified Roundup classic every year at UT. I think we can agree on that. Anyone else?
I'm glad you said eat it up because this is probably a very stupid idea, but you know what? Think of what some of the states have very, they have foods that are the whole state's identity. Even teams, the whole state's identity. Think about Green Bay, Milwaukee, Brewers and Packers cheese-themed jerseys. They already have the cheese heads. Packers already have that yellow on it. Full yellow uniforms, a little bit of cheese, some holes in there for that cheddar cheese. Brewers, I don't know how they do it, but it would just be fun if there was cheesy uniforms. It'd be fun.
Ooh, cheesy. That's great branding.
Cheesy uniforms.
It'd be pretty Gouda.
That's going to be tough to do. Ooh. Comedy hour here on Rapid Fire. Adam?
I'm going to go with Chicago. The Bears and the Cubs, they're basically the same mascot. The only thing is the Cubs have been carrying the weight, man. The Bear needs to kind of step up. Come on, Mama Bear. I mean, the Bears, they've been embarrassing the last couple of years. So.
That's good. That's good. We have fun.
All right. I give up for Evan's puns. Evan's got to get the puns on this one.
Jackson, for your little Gouda crack, I'm going to give you a fifth. I'll give you a half a point just because that really tickled me. That said, of course, Evan, for his cheesy choice, will be getting the 2 on this one.
First the puns.
There you go.
Now, in an effort to get some positive PR for prominent HBCU, Morgan State University, Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson spent a day on campus, touring the area, riding Lime scooters, and working a shift at the campus Chick-fil-A, the cornerstone of any college. Now, I don't think he'll be pursuing minimum wage work anytime soon, but it did get us wondering. What athlete could you see working a different job, and what would it be? I had a suspicion this one might get derogatory very quickly. He's a bum. He's a Baker Mayfield garbage man. But anyway, I don't want to steal the good answers.
The guy I'm gonna say.
Oh, I'm so sorry for stealing that one. Anyone can jump in. Evan, feel free to take a moment to think since I ripped you off.
I'm gonna go with Shaq, and I'm gonna go with cleaning. He'll be a cleaner. Think about every time you've had to get up on a chair, I don't know, cleaning a fan or maybe, getting something down from the top of the groceries. He'd just be a tall person. He'd just be doing tall person things. So I'm going to go with the cleaner just because he can get in so many places that short people like myself cannot reach. Man.
You know what? I would actually have a great use for this service. At first I had no idea where you're going with it, but it started making a lot of sense very quickly.
I'll stick to the Lakers trend here. I think Lakers starting point guard Russell Westbrook would be great at building houses because all we see from out there is bricks anyway. So, I mean, if he's throwing up 30 bricks a night, that's a house in 2-3 months. Listen, I watch Flip or Flop. They do not get it done that quickly. So if we can see Russell Westbrook just laying some bricks out like he does every night out there in LA, and I was about to say the Staples Center, but it's some crypto thing now, I think, he could be great at that job. I'd love to see it on a reality TV show.
Evan is on fire with this rapid fire. Adam, we're on you next.
How about Ryan Fitzpatrick as an SAT or ACT tutor prep? Harvard man. I mean, he's got the smarts out there. He's managed to hang around in the league for so long as a backup. So, or a star. He's been able to jump from job to job. So obviously a smart guy out there. Got the Harvard education. Why can't he help some aspiring students out?
Adam, in terms of just jobs that these guys would actually be good at, I do think that you came in with the best one. But Evan. Yeah. Evan's going to be getting the 2 once again. Like I said, he is just killing it.
I was going to call Baker Mayfield a clown, so.
Yeah, making you think on your toes. The Russ Wilson answer was actually better, so it all worked out. WrestleMania 38 emanated live out of Dallas, Texas this past weekend, and what was billed as, and I'm not kidding, the most stupendous two-night WrestleMania of all time. They said that about 100 times at the show and about 1,000 in the episodes of Raw and SmackDown leading up. This type of wordiness is very consistent in WWE's branding, as seen in the aftermath of the main event, a championship unification match between WWE Champion Brock Lesnar and Universal Champion Roman Reigns. The company's two top championships became one when Roman Reigns won and was announced as the new and first undisputed WWE Universal Champion. But it's too much. It's too wordy. It's lacking creativity. It's just taking the two names of the belts together, but it's not supposed to be that, right? It's a new top world championship. So fellas, that's where you come in. I want you to give me a name for this new belt that reflects the magnanimity of the situation. And since the new design is yet to be unveiled, aesthetic suggestions are also welcome. Anyone could jump in.
Ooh. I'm going to go with the Universal. So, Universal, undisputed, fighting champion, whatever. But in Universal, it starts off with a W. Somewhere in the middle, there's another W, probably where the V is. And then you have, right after the V, you have an E right afterwards. And all you got to do is capitalize all three.
This is clever. I do like it. It makes me wonder, Universal, do we know of anything bigger than the universe? If anyone can answer that question.
Oh, I take astronomy. I should know this. I don't think there is.
Dang it.
I have a test tomorrow.
It's funny that the championship of the universe and the championship of the WWE were presented as on the same level before this. But remember, this is the biggest title of all time that we're talking about, and it's wrestling. So let's let that one get our answer.
Maybe just let's go with probably the most overused sports phrase of all time, the GOAT belt. And since we're looking for aesthetics here, they love to have the extra stuff in WWE. I don't really watch WWE. I don't like the fake part of it, and don't go with it. But they got chairs, they got the cages. Throw some goats out there, literally just the animals. There were some camels on Speedway. If we can get camels, they can get goats. So let's just have them out there. I'd love to see some. Brock Lesnar's WWE, right? Just boom with a goat on someone.
I like the stipulation that it must always be defended in matches that involve a lot of goats in the ring. I think this makes a lot of sense. Really sports entertaining.
Yeah.
Adam?
Man, they got to drop the Universal part, or else my stipulation, if they are gonna keep Universal in the title, this thing's either got to be on Mars or it's got to be on the moon, man. Because it's not fair. I mean, there could be life. There could be life elsewhere. I mean, they should have a shot at the Universal belt too. So I think the WWE should not be allowed to use the World Universal until it's truly a Universal Championship. Got to be inclusive to the other life forms out there.
Show me one alien that can press out Roman Reigns.
Hey, I'm not in the scouting department, man. I'm just in the fairness and.
Adam, for bringing up one of the great injustices of the Universal Championship that only Earthlings have had the right to compete for it, I will be giving you the 2 on this one. And with that, you will be the champion of this episode of College Crossfire. Do we have time for FaceTime? We do. Adam, take it away.
Well, it is nice to have a College Crossfire victory, but something that hasn't been celebrated in a long time, a U.S. World Cup qualifying berth.
Hey!
We're going to Qatar in the winter. Got a good Group 2. Iran's the best team. They could have gotten out of Group C. England's an interesting one in Group B, so we'll see. I mean, we've found ways to lose to Canada, and we always lose in Central America, but we'll see what we can do on the wonderful football fields of Qatar.
USA.
USA. USA. USA. Congrats, and that is a good ending to this very patriotic episode of College Crossfire. So congratulations to Adam, and thank you all for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on social media at TSTV Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Lastly, be sure to watch Adam on the 1-0 Sports Show Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Is that still accurate? It is still accurate, folks. I always watch it on DVR. Now, for all the panelists and everyone in studio and Master Control, I'm Drew Jacob. Have a wonderful evening.